So before we start, I wanna share my story with you. Okay.
Okay.
So in my recollection, and I looked back through email years ago, that like I think you were one of the first people I talked to, like through Pinside or something like that, around like homebrew stuff, and like way back. I think we even
Oh
talked
yeah.
on the phone and stuff too.
Yeah, we
Like
talked on the phone. This was before you even did fast, I think. We
right, it
talked.
was back in the skill shop pinball
Oh
days,
yeah.
like way back there. So we had never met in person until Expo this year,
That is correct. In
and
fact, we didn't talk for years.
yeah, and we've talked plenty since then. So
Yeah.
like I think for me, like again, I'm the guy in the pinball homebrew community who's built zero pinball machines. So we're just putting that perspective out there right now. But what I've enjoyed with all the stuff we get to do is I get to meet people and like see what drove you into making pinball machines, what was attractive. So I mean, you talked a little bit in your presentation the other day.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Is not the full story. When I was a kid, really
Yeah.
young, I loved the arcades, and I wanted to become an arcade board designer
Okay.
when I was an adult. Well, arcade boards these days aren't really anything more than PCs. So what's the point of that? And I very quickly learned that, especially in college, when some of my teachers were very bad, and I was already really good at programming at the time, so I switched over to just software engineering. And I told the dean I could do his job better multiple times. But that's beside
I'm
the
sure
point.
they love that.
Oh yeah, I was on and off the probation list and whatnot because I already knew everything. I don't mean to sound vain or anything, but I did. I had a lot of college students or learn how to program in college.
Right.
I had been programming since the fourth grade.
Okay.
So, yeah, but I really wanted to make arcade and Nintendo consoles and things when I was a kid.
Very cool.
And I write games now for a living. I'm a game programmer. I've been a programmer for 16 years. I started with PS3. I started with Nintendo DS. Bratz Super Babies for Nintendo DS. I made the Zelda levels. Then Tony Hawk Motion. I did all the motion controls on Tony Hawk, but before it was built into the cartridges with the DSi and whatnot, they had accelerometers. This was before that.
Okay.
Then just over the years, I've been doing all kinds of games. Like PS3, I did a pinball game on PS3. That's what got me into pinball.
Okay.
And or got me back into pinball. I did like pinball back in 2000, playing Pinball 2000 because it was a video game.
Right.
Funny what I'm making these days.
Yeah, the haunted cruise, like
yeah, the augmented reality stuff.
you got rid of the big CRT that like
Oh god,
breaks our
that
own
is so
backs these days.
Yep. Yeah, but I've always wanted to make industrial amusements.
Okay.
I work as a theme park mechanic in the summers and whatnot,
Okay.
fixing roller coasters and things, and rewriting animatronic controllers and such. So I do all this crazy stuff. If it's entertainment, I like doing it. Generally speaking.
So like the software touching physical devices,
Yeah,
moving things, it's like already in your like interest.
I've been doing mobile stuff and download stuff for like 10 years now.
Okay.
And it's so boring because you can't go to a store and buy something. You can't see it physically being held.
Right.
But when you make a pinball machine or an arcade game or something like that, you can kind of slink in the shadows and watch people go, "Yay!" or get angry or throw their hands up because it sucks. And yeah, it's just really neat to see people's reactions with these physical devices.
You know, that's the thing too, that like I say that like pinball is like, an arcade game, so the original social gaming, right? So it's like, if I think of the friends we made on summer trips and stuff like that, when it's like, you're playing a game and you can see the reflection of the glass, like some other kid standing behind you or something like that. Nowadays, if you're standing over someone playing a game and they're watching you on your phone, you're like, get out, give me a minute, get out of the way.
What are you, a creep? Yeah, when I was on a Greek cruise with when I was younger with my family through the Mediterranean, there was a little arcade on that. It had Neo Geo Waku Waku 7, Neo Geo King of Fighters 96, and a 3D soccer game, Virtual Strikers, or something similar to that. I don't think it was exactly Virtual Strikers.
Okay.
But I made friends in there because I was one of the few kids on that cruise, and we just hung out there all the time, and we started fighting each other in the games, and everything was great.
So, okay, so now like you've established, like I like working on games, like physical things and making them. So like, you talked about Haunted Cruise,
Yeah.
You've been working on Frozen and things like that. Like how many games, well, two questions. How many different game projects have you worked on in the homebrew side of things? And follow-up question.
For pinball specifically?
For pinball, right. And the follow-up question would be like, how many whitewoods per game do you usually do? Iterations.
Let's see. As of right now, I have, for whitewoods, not completed games, I have made 8 or 9 different game
Okay.
whitewoods. So of course everybody knows Haunted Cruise. I have it here.
Yep.
A lot of people know Frozen. I've done Tail of the Dragon, which will come around at some point. It's just not quite polished yet to bring to more shows.
Right.
I made the original whitewood for Nightmare Before Christmas before I gave it over to what's his name?
To Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did that original playfield.
That's awesome.
And I made another playfield called Fairyland Tales. That was the second game I made in between Haunted Cruise before other versions. That was a flipping whitewood. I've got 3 whitewoods right now in my shop that I'm not going to tell you about. But one of them is coming out in a couple months. The others are going to come out over the next couple years. And dozens of different designs and CAD drawings and things.
That's awesome. So like the iterations, like, are you able to like, you pull the parts off, you move it to your next one? What do you do?
No, I spend the money and I get new parts.
Okay. Because I guess that's one of those areas where, again, I've built 0 completed games, but I have all these partially built things. And it's like, I look at that going, do I need to save this? And I'm never.
Yeah, so some of my whitewoods, I have assimilated parts for others when I'm poor.
Yeah.
But I don't like doing that because, like you said, you can't play it.
Sure.
Like Fairyland Tales, I made that 10 years ago. It was flipping and had jets and all the 9 yards. Well, you can't play it now because first off, it doesn't fit in my cabinet. But secondly, I've taken all the parts off and used it in other things.
Well, I guess I was looking more at like the iterations of a single game where it's like, I'm going to recut this one.
When iterating a single game, take it off one and put it on the other, unless it got rusty over the years, then I'll buy a new one or something.
Yeah, those wood pieces, I'm like, do I need to put these on the wall, like to mount this or something like that? Like I
put them in the trash.
All right, there you go.
If I really wanted to revisit that, I could roll back my SVN repository and cut another whitewood of that. But there's a reason why you make those changes and why you iterate to the next version.
Okay. So I say all the time, like, because I do interviews and stuff now, and I describe to people that like everybody's hard part is different. So when you look at like the homebrew games and stuff that you build, which is the part you dread most?
Art.
Okay. Interesting.
I am not an artist. I'm not a 3D modeler. I'm not an animator. I can do it, quote unquote,
right?
But I'm not very good at it.
So what do you do for art then? Like, do you have
so for most of my homebrews, I'm slogging through the art because my friends are industry buddies and they cost money.
Sure.
So, and anytime I want them to make a prop or an asset or an animation, I need to have it defined for them so they know what it's going to be, and then it costs money to do it. So if I make a change, it's going to cost more money.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why Haunted Cruise doesn't have any real art in there right now is because it's not ready to hire an artist to go and do it. So I made a couple of the scenes look kind of nice just because it's like the first thing you see, but it's still nothing like what my buddies can do.
So like when you were like talking the other day, you were talking about your process of like how you go through things physically, then you start matching that up with the story that you tell.
Yeah.
That basically becomes the guide for things. So when you're talking about getting to the part you don't like doing, you know that like there are professionals that can easily do that, like you probably dealt with in your career.
Yeah, I pick up my phone and call someone.
So the more defined you are, we can say like, go and make this for me now, as opposed to just tinker around forever. Like that's just burning time and money.
Yeah, pretty much. With game development, we tend to go through different phases. One of the phases is typically an alpha phase and a beta phase. I'm sure some of you have heard about that.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has different definitions for alpha and beta, but the companies I've worked with is alpha is feature complete.
Okay.
You're not adding any new features. That means no new. The player isn't going to jump any differently, or you're not going to add a new weapon or whatever. In a pinball thing, you're not going to add a new mode. You're not going to add new collectibles or something, right?
Okay.
That's it. That's done. And no modern pinball company has ever gotten feature complete when they released a game. But with video games, you feature complete alpha, and then from alpha to beta, that's when you get the artists and everybody else to go in and polish it up to make it look really nice, because now you know what the asset list is, and they're not just spinning their wheels with concept art and things. And then after the beta phase, you have the polish phase where you balance everything and you tweak it.
So it's interesting. I mean, what I hear you saying is like, from your professional career on like you making games and stuff, you're applying what you do in your day job to pinball,
Yeah.
So, I mean, like I've met a lot of different people who come from different backgrounds and things like that. But I think that, we've spent time talking our Sunday afternoons, just chatting about like how you make these games, how you do these things. It is an interesting perspective to say like, I'm going to apply my professional development of games to making pinball. That's cool.
Yeah, well, it's also a way to keep me on track with milestones and get things done. Because every one of us out there who has been making these things knows, hey, I get a new idea. I want to do something else. You don't have a manager above you to slap you and say, no, stay on this.
Right.
So you got to somehow keep some kind of schedule and have either, like, I have a whole wall full of sticky notes that I take off and I move over to the in process thing.
There you go.
And get it done, especially like when it's before a show.
Cool. Well, all right. Well, I think we're just about out of
Yeah.
time here. Did you even introduce yourself, or
Oh,
did we just
by the
dive
way,
right in?
I make games, pinball, and all kinds of other things.
And if anybody wants to get a hold of you or contact you, what's your preferred method?
I'm on Pinside. You'll find Haunted Cruise there. Send me a message.
Yeah. Thank you so much.